Wolf. Right. I got about 30 minutes. Let's jump on here. Finish up the week. We knew that we knew the week was going to be pretty dull, actually. Not a whole lot happening. I mean, I really can't say too much, honestly. We can jump around, look at the charts here, just confirm where things are going to be closing. We didn't make any money this week, and that's fine. That's how things go. We might even be down a couple $100, I think, but we're adding to a Bitcoin position here slowly. What I'm looking at here is with Bitcoin, right? This is the zone I wanted in on, right? That's where I started adding, right? And I added a little bit more here today as we came back down. I said exactly that this was going to happen, is we will bounce off of this level, right? The yellow line is never accurate with time, but it is always accurate with, like, we wouldn't have had to wait till May, you know what I mean? Like, what I mean to draw is coming here, right? And then coming down, right? And that's exactly what it did, right? So now it came down, hit that level, added more on the Bitcoin long, right? And if it happens to come down a little bit lower, we'll grab a quick little wick, but it's going to bounce in this zone, okay? It's going to bounce here, for sure. If you're new here and you don't know that I'm right 100% of the time, well, you will about to be learned. About to be learnt. Always right. Literally always. Right. So, what can we do then? Advance happy Valentine's Day for singles and singles day. Nice. Okay. It's not singles day, bro. There's no such thing as singles day. You know what I did last year is I did misogyny day. So Valentine's Day is all about the chick, right? So I decided, I was like, hey, we got to have like one that's all about the man. So misogyny day, right? So in March we celebrated misogyny day. You know what it is? You know what we did? I got a home-cooked meal while I smoked a cigar in the living room listening to country music. I didn't fucking get off my ass. Oh, Singles Day is November, I see. I guess Singles Day is like a day for you to appreciate yourself, I guess. Which, it shouldn't be Singles Day. It should just be like Self-Appreciation Day or something. Right? Like, there's nothing to appreciate. Like, being single is not something that you show gratitude towards. Like, you don't show love to yourself for being unable to be in a relationship. It's a ridiculous concept. Right, so yeah, Bitcoin bounce here. If we can regain the zone, be great. Let's look at the weekly candles. Nothing's going to be majorly printing here on the Bitcoin. Let's switch back to gold. How is the weekly going to be closing? I closed out my gold long. I still have some like gold company investment, so I'm still slightly leveraged in gold. But yesterday we lost this level, right? So what I'd like to do is just get back in a bit lower, right? It's probably going to be coming here, right? And then we can shoot for that high again, something along those lines. On the weekly time frame, weekly is about to close, right? Like, we'll see. It looks like it's gonna fail this, right? So again, more cause for the downside. You know, I might look to pick up Gold here then. That might be the level I want. That weekly level then. And that looks pretty good to me, honestly, right? I'd take that weekly level pretty nicely there. That's a G move. Yeah, it's pretty funny, right? It was sick. She loved it too. She liked to. Do I have a date for Valentine's Day? I got not really, no. I might Alexa's still kind of around, so I might go say hi to her. She's working. Give her a little surprise, but and then I got a buddy that's coming to visit. That's it. We're not nothing for Valentine's Day this year. Nothing crazy. Anyways, so gold, yeah, gold. That's my opinion. So I think it's gonna come down. Let's draw the yellow line prophecy. The line. Yeah, I think it'll reject here, come down here, and then come back up. Okay. And Bitcoin, we drew the lines. Bitcoin, let's just redraw that line so everyone remembers how much of a genius I am. Right here, there, and then up. Right. And then Nasdaq. I think I still have a QQQ long. Nice. Yeah, cool. So Nasdaq came back to this level. What was that level? It was the weekly level. Okay. Simple, super simple, dudes, right? They're bouncing off that weekly level. Didn't close the Nasdaq long because I still think that, hey, they're gonna be bouncing somewhere here. I still think they're coming up here. So Nasdaq, I think next week probably come up and then down, sort of thing. Maybe, I don't know. I honestly don't really know actually on the Nasdaq yet because it's just ranging still. But where's the weekly gonna close? Again, kind of doesn't really matter here. I think it's just gonna come here is all. That's all I can predict on Nasdaq right now. How did the CPI go? CPI came in a little bit cheaper cost for people, right? So that means it's good for the economy overall, okay? So if you look at the Edge Finder, right, you see gold is actually doing a little bit better. Technical score is getting better. Or sorry, the fundamental score is getting a little bit better. And then I don't know how that affects Bitcoin. CPI year over year, right? So it's a bit lower. So the cost of goods is a bit lower than expected, okay? So that's good for spending. We love spending. And then the Nasdaq, still kind of bearish, but, you know, that did help it a little bit, right? What's your thoughts on COPEX? Never heard of it, so it's garbage. Higher high, higher low. We don't trade stupid things like that. You're in your prime, kind of. Yeah, I would say the age and ability I have right now is probably pretty much the best I will be for my life for the next few years, probably. Yeah. I think early 30s for a man is kind of the best he can get, right? Because you had like a deck.
Copper miners, EDF.
By the time you're 30 as a man, if you've been working out, you're gonna be fit. You're not breaking down yet. By the time you hit 40, you're kind of starting to slow down, right? So you're still fit and active and you know, and then also, I think money wise, you know, you start to have some money when you're 30, right? In your 20s, you're broke. Right. If you actually did some work on yourself, you should have money by the time you're 30. Right. And like, I'm not talking like crazy amounts of money, like, but like, you know, an amount of money that you're going to be able to like wear a nice suit and go out for dinner sort of thing. Like that's, and like pay the rent, you know what I mean? Basically be a safe person. Right. And I think like when people talk about the prime as a man, it basically comes down to what is the safest thing for you to be able to provide for your family. And I think having a little bit of money, having physical fitness, and having some strength, right? And some mental awareness and aptitude, right? Those are the things that keep your family safe, right? So 30 is probably the best age you can be as a man. Yeah, I would agree with you there. Cost of goods is not lower. That pure Trump fantasy people. Well, you're wrong. First of all, you don't know what you're talking about because that's not what CPI is. CPI is not the price of things, right? It's the change in price, right? So this just shows how new you are, right? So a year over year CPI means that the price of goods for the previous year over year metric, right? So this is calculated monthly, but it's year over year metric, okay? So it's grown by 2.7%. So the forecast was it was going to grow by a less amount, right? And what actually happened was it grew by an even less amount than they thought it was going to grow less by, right? So that's good for the currency. Or not good. It's good for spending, right? For the currency, like you want expensive products. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but you want the price of things in your country to be very expensive because that way you have power over other countries. So this is red, right? Just because this is red doesn't mean it's bad. It means that it's bad for the currency, right? Because you as a nation, you know, the USA, right? The USA as a nation wants their price of goods to be super expensive so that when they export things, right? Other countries give them more money and then you end up getting richer, right? But for investing, the less people spend, the more money they have to invest. Am I still in oil? I entered oil yesterday, dude. It's done nothing. It's done nothing. It hasn't moved yet. I just entered a couple contracts of oil, right? If it's something new, I never enter big. I just kind of throw a couple, see what it does, right? And then we learn from there, okay? So this is gonna be something that's gonna be held for like a year. Or am I still in oil? Of course I'm still in oil. That's why
stock update.
That's why I tell younger gents always putting pressure on themselves. Life as a man starts at 30, more or less, dude. I mean, life as a man. So it depends, dude. I think fucking pure Trump fantasy people. Why is it got to be politics? Doesn't matter. Politics is fucking religion for non-religion people, dude. I think I'm firmly starting to believe in that. Politics is a religion for people who don't believe in religion. Politics is just a bunch of fucking mumbo jumbo. It's just all garbage, dude. It doesn't matter who wins. The same thing's gonna happen no matter what. It's all fucking it's already written in stone, dude. There's nothing you can do. Oh yeah, so somebody's like, life as a man starts at 30, right? And I think that depends on how you treated your 20s, right? Your life can either end at 30 or start at 30, right? If you worked on your mental health, physical health, spiritual health, and financial health, right? Those are the 4 pillars, I suppose. Then great, you're gonna have a really awesome 30s, 40s, 50s, right? 60s might slow down. But if you were drinking at the bar, fucking every Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday, right? I imagine you're pretty fucked up by the time you're 30. What is gold dipping to? I mean, last week's probably level, yeah. Probably last week level. We'll look for an entry down there tomorrow, next week. Do I look at currency pairs? I mean, I could, but there's no point really. I wouldn't trade a currency. What's the minimum number of trades to judge a strategy when backtesting? I think that's a pretty common question. Here's the thing, dude. If you're backtesting, your backtest needs to be so significant that it makes money, okay? If you go and backtest it, it's like, it works okay, right? Don't use the strategy. It has to work fucking always, okay? And I'm telling you this with over a decade experience, tons of backtesting. I've been doing this for my entire adult life, okay? My entire adult life. I started doing this when I was like 18, okay? I'm now 31. Closing on 32, right? And every single time I ever backtested something and it was like, this looks like it's going to work, right? It didn't work. Like, and this is why I tell you ICT, SMC, all these things that you go and you backtest because you learned off a YouTube video and it shows on paper that it makes money, they don't work. Because they don't work in live conditions, dude. First off, the thing is when you're backtesting, you are cherry picking slightly because you are biased to wanting to make money. Okay, so you do make exceptions so that you will make a higher performing backtest. Okay, that you have to be cognizant of. Okay. So with that being said, if something comes back at like 55%, accuracy, you're probably looking at like 45%, okay? Because you are biased, right? The next thing is you also have to deduct another 10, 20% for you making mistakes because you're going to see things wrong. You're going to be tired some days, right? You're going to be emotional some days and you're going to make mistakes, okay? And that's going to depend on how disciplined and in control and in tune with your emotions are. I am very in tune with my emotions. I am very in tune with my ability to connect with over trading, right? All of these symptoms of being frantic, right? I'm very, very good at that. And I still lose like 15% of off of that, or maybe not, maybe like 10%, right? Like I lose a lot of trades. I have to deduct like 10% from my actual performance to know my expected ROI, right? Does that make sense? So like if I'm expecting a 90% win rate, right? I'm actually only getting 80% because I'm fucking up a lot, right? So that being said, right? So you're biased, right? 2, deduct another 20% off that win rate because you're going to make mistakes, right? So what I would suggest is if the backtest is not showing 80% accuracy, you have an unprofitable strategy. Right? Because you need at least that 30% buffer for it to make money. And then the last thing, dude, is let's say it does make money, right? What is worth your time? Right? Let's say it makes money, but you're only making like 3% a month. Is that fucking worth your time? You know what I mean? Like it has to make so much money for it to be worth your time. Otherwise, you can just do nothing and make money too, right? Right? Like let me show you what you could have done if you're just trading gold, right? If you're just swing trading or positionally trading, you could have just bought here in the start of the year, right? And you'd be up 14%. Right? So 14% in a month and a half. If you're not making more than that from your trading, then what's the point? You're not making a lot more than that. You know what I mean? Like it was worth it for me because I'm up 70%, 80%, whatever it is, right? I was trading perfect last year, making a good amount. Journaling, making sure I was in the right mental state and So far, not doing good this year. Going to pull back, take a little break, and come back. Good. So what I recommend, dude, is if you are noticing that you're feeling anxious or you're feeling bad, okay, then take a break and slow down and back off for a bit. You're doing exactly that. But back off for a bit. Go to swing trading maybe, so it's like you don't have to do as much. Day trading is very mentally exhausting. If you can look at GBP, NZD, sure. I mean, like, I don't know how much I'm going to tell you about this, but lost this level. Let's look at the monthly loss, right? Retest, coming back down to these lows. I mean, it's gonna come down to this low. Yeah, this is the next level. What's your prediction for crypto? Probably going to bounce here and then go down further later. What's your take on using hedging against personal accounts versus prop firms? Go ahead and do it. It's a good idea. Am I in energy stocks? Yes, a little bit. Just scrolling through a ton of questions there. 50% win rate and 1 to 2 is all you need to be easily profitable. People still lose money, so trading is a scam or just gambling. Yeah, I mean, well, it's a lot easier said than done, right? Like, so here's the issue, Papi. Papi Chulo. That's his actual name. I'm not just calling him something, but I think that's great. That's a great name. The odds of, let's just throw a thing here. So you said 1 to 2, right? If we just threw this here, okay? If I randomly clicked buy or sell, what are the odds that this profit hits and this stop hits, right? Well, it's 66% chance here, right? That the stop will hit, and it's 33 here. So you're saying all you need is a 50% win rate and a 2-hour setup. Well, random trading tells us that a 2-hour setup is 33% hit rate. Okay. So by the way, that can help you with something. If you ever want to know, hey, how much better are you than random, or how much worse than you are than random, is look at your R, right, and then look at your win rate, right? Like, I'll give you a couple of examples so that people bad at math. If you're 1 to 1, it should be 50-50, right? 50-50, okay? And if you have a negative R, so say 0.5, right? That's the reverse of this. So this is 66% chance, right? 66. And this is 33, okay? So it's the reverse, okay? And then I'll give you one more here. If you go 1 to 3, right? It's a 75-25, okay? 75% chance that you hit the stop loss before you hit this, right? Now, so you say, oh, you only need a 2R, right? Oh, 2R is easy. I can do a 2R. And you only need 50%. Oh, 50% super easy. But the reality is that's nearly like doubly as hard as random trading. Like 50% win rate on a 2R is fucking hard to do. Right? So many questions, bro. Why are you gay? Is it risky to swing trade on Maven?
For Maven? I mean, it could outlast all of us if there's a proper plan.
What's the legacy plan for Maven? I don't know, dude. I mean, like, I'm just happy doing what I'm doing. I'm trading. I'm making content for Maven. I have equity in Maven. You know, Maven pays me fine. Everything's super stable. Like, I'm happy, right? I'm happy. I don't need any more right now. Maybe I'll like a paycheck one day when I have kids, and then I can retire or something. I don't know, but that's like at least a few years away. So, do you account for break-even trades? No, break-even trades they break even, so they don't matter. What's your opinion on Cardano? It's another altcoin. They're all useless. Would a trading strat just be moving averages even? I don't know. I don't know what that means. Three years now, but I was making money both ways with trading gold. So you probably were just under different conditions. Like, your trading strategy probably doesn't work then. If you can only make money like some years, then your trading strategy doesn't work. What's your take on bots? They don't work. Guys, I'm telling you, like, pretty much nothing works, okay? And I say this over and over. Pretty much nothing works. And how do you find the thing that works? Well, you go and make it yourself. That's what you do. And not a single person watching this wants to hear that. What you do is you spend a decade making your own strategy from concepts you found, right? You spend a decade doing it, yeah. Guess what? I'm 13 years in. I'm still adapting my strategy, right? But for me to be consistently super, super amazingly profitable, it took me like of active trading, probably at least 5 years of active, like 5, 6, 7 years, something like that, of active trading to get good. Do you have to pay for EdgeFinder? Yes. So here's the thing. I go down the path that every single one of you is going down, and not a single person watching is as far down this path as I am right now, right? But what you do is you start with some exuberance, right? You kind of just buy and hold. You jump into something that's trending and hot in the media right now, right? And that's how you get into trading, right? For me, it was Bitcoin in 2013. Okay, that's how you get into trading. And then from there, you start trying to learn how to trade so that you can make more money, right? And it works for a little bit. And then you start learning all sorts of crazy shit, right? Because it works for a little bit only because you're in a trending market, and that money, that just you being in the market's making you money, right? So you think you're good, right? And then something happens and that trend stops. Now all of a sudden you don't make money anymore and you're freaking out. So you try to figure out a way to day trade, okay? You know, oh, I'll be a day trader and I'll learn these strategies. That's the next step, right? After you've lost a bunch of money, you start day trading, right? Day trading then is fucking just that's a big old scam right off the bat. It's possible, but for you being a beginner, not going to happen. No chance in hell, right? So you try that for a bit. Then you get into ICT, SMC, all these things. People are claiming it works. They're selling courses. That's why. It doesn't actually work, okay? It can work, but again, incredibly difficult thing. It's like I want to go be an Olympian, right? Why would you push yourself so hard, right? You could win, but it was probably better just to run a couple races at home first, so that you can actually start feeling what it feels like and start winning, right? That makes sense? It's a good analogy, maybe. Do some local races before you compete in the Olympics, right? Because it's a lot more difficult when it's higher tier, okay? So then after you figure out that ICT doesn't really work, what you do is you start fucking long-term, slower pace trading. You care less. You're not doing like fucking scalping anymore. And then things, as you lay off the gas, you start noticing, hey, I'm doing better, right? And then you're like, oh, I'm going to develop a strategy that allows me to lay off the gas, right? So you start developing a strategy based off of the ideas and concepts of things you've learned from the day trading, okay? And that's how you start making money, right? From there, then you go into a profitable swing trader, right? Using these concepts you have. And then from there, that's the next tier is being a profitable day trader. Bro, in the long run, like 2 years or more. 2 years is not the long run. I think 2 years is a very short term. Do you think Solana can reach 400 billion in market cap? What, dude? Whoa, you think so? Wait. What is the market cap right now? Solana. Where market cap? Okay, it's at 50 billion. Okay. Wow, that's pretty high. Do you think Solana will hit a 10x basically? Do you think Solana can hit a 10x? Yes. In the next cycle, yeah. That's actually I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the non-ridiculousness of what you just asked. Yeah, here you go. So do I think it can hit 400 billion? Yes. Yes. It could. The issue is, yeah, that could be possible. The issue is looking at something like ETH. Market cap. Can we look at ETH? Like it could do something like this, right? Where Ethereum went to kind of zero and then it spiked up. Now the issue is like Ethereum this cycle did nothing, right? So all projects basically just die eventually, and like this, you know, went pretty dang high that cycle. So you just don't know if like this was the cycle that killed ETH. Basically, ETH is dead. It's a dead project now. Facts. Took me a minute, but I'm profitable. Nice, dude. Congrats. What things convince you trading whenever? Wait. What things convince you to continue trading whenever you get a losing streak in those 5 years? Okay, so is Maven Shorts here? I think Maven Shorts is here. Maven Shorts, you here? Should I tell the story? Hi. Should I tell the story? Right. So first of all, for losing streaks now, I don't lose. Right. Let's put on the cold chart. So I don't have losing streaks anymore. And if I do have a losing streak, it's because there's something wrong with my life and I'm fucking it up. Right. So first of all, that's like off the song. Yeah. Oops. Yeah. So that's first of all, that's something just to be aware of, is like if you're having a losing streak, it's because you're doing something wrong. It's not your strategy, right? Your strategy, if your strategy is having a losing streak, your strategy doesn't work, right? It's as simple as that, okay? If a strategy actually works, it doesn't have losing streaks, okay? But, okay, should I tell the story? I have a story. The story begins. I lost nearly $1 million. I had $1 million, just about $1 million Canadian actually. It was about 700 grand US dollars in liquid cash at one point, and I went to fucking zero, absolute zero. And it wasn't a, hey, I need to make the bigger camera. Let me make a bigger camera. Let me start that story again. Maven Shorts is trying to take a clip right now, I think so. He wants to hear the story. Okay, so the story begins. The story begins again. Okay, so my biggest loss ever. I had $1 million Canadian, just under $1 million. Is 700 grand US. I think converted to Canadian. I was like so close to $1 million, and I lost it all, right? And it wasn't me like being in a meme coin and then just losing it all instantly. It wasn't me making, some really big mistake and it just like collapsing. But this was like a year-long burn of just like destroying it all, right? And when you don't appreciate the value of money, it's pretty easy to do this. And I've done this a couple times, honestly. So this is not the first time I've done this. A story for another day potentially too. But quite literally, I had, I was like, I'm gonna go buy a fucking house with this, right? And I was like waiting for that million, and I was like almost there. And I wanted to pull it out so that I could go buy a house and be like, if something goes wrong, at least I have a fucking house now. I don't have to worry about rent anymore. Everything is set for life. And I was like so close to $1 million. I was like about to pull it out. But the banks were like, they're like, you can't, they weren't going to give me a mortgage. So I was like trying to pull out before. So I was like, I have to just pay with cash. And I was like, $1 million, that's enough for a house. Okay. And I didn't quite get it. So this was back in the crypto days where I made a lot of money from this last cycle here. What was it? I think from 2020, I started accumulating a lot of Bitcoin in 2019 and 2020 because I started actually doing trading and posting trading content, and people were buying mentorships, courses, and I was also trading crypto, right? And crypto was making crazy amounts of money. So I really snowballed super fast from like not very much money to like $1 million here, right? And like I think I would have been a millionaire if this hit like 80K or 75K or something, right? And then from there, like it started dumping down, right? And I was like, I have to at least diversify because I know that at some point there's gonna be a bear market. I've been in this for a long time, right? I know that I'm gonna lose everything eventually, so I need to start diversifying. So I went to Croatia and I bought a bunch of graphics cards. Why Croatia? Because the electricity was cheap there and I had a friend that had space, right? So a bunch of graphics cards. I started an Ethereum mining farm, right? And if you know much about crypto, you used to be able to mine Ethereum and it's like, fucking, I'm going to be printing cash. I spent tons of money on this. And like 6 months later, like somewhere in this bear market, Ethereum switched to proof of stake. So those graphics cards were now useless. So I just tossed it, right? Like spent like a 100 grand or something on that, right? And then on top of that, I was sitting in this trying to exit those positions because every time this would dump down, I would be saying, hey, I'm just going to wait for it to bounce back up, right? And then I'm going to get out, right? And I'll be like, I'll take my profits. But it never hit the level I wanted because I was too dumb, right? I was too dumb to just exit. So it kept dumping. And then I invested in another buddy that he was starting this was back when OF was becoming popular. So he wanted to start like a modeling agency, let's say, for OF, right? And I was like, I gave him a bunch of money and I was like, this is sick, dude. Like, we're going to make tons of money. And then he ended up just like blowing the whole thing, like just because he was a degenerate, right? So like, again, another investment bad. And then I think there's something else. I can't really remember, but it kept throwing things around, right? And the whole time, the market was just collapsing for like a whole year. So I went from $1 million here, right, to essentially zero a year later, right? And the last thing was actually when it was like getting near, right? I had like 100 grand left, right? I lost 90%. I had like 100 grand left. Seb approached me in February of 2022. I think it was February 2022, right here. Seb approached me right here. Right. And I had a good amount of money still here. Right. And he's like, let's start a prop firm, basically. And I was like, what the heck's a prop firm? Let's look. It's an FTMO sort of thing, Top Step sort of thing. Right. So we started looking into it and it kept crashing. Right. So by the time we started building it, it was like I went to Mexico because I was like, I need to focus and lock in. It was September of 2022. I went to Mexico. right? At the bottom of the bear market. And I was like, I have 100 grand left. Let's throw it all into this development, right? I literally had all of my money. I pulled out everything. I threw it all at developers, every last penny of it. And at the very, very bottom, I left Mexico in November of 2022, literally the very bottom, and I had zero left in my personal bank account. I kept sending everything to Maven. And I bailed out on rent when I got back home. I flew back home with no money, right? And I bailed out on rent, and I lived on somebody's couch for a couple months while I started Maven. And all of that money went to payouts, development, making sure the company was able to succeed. And I only finally started living normally again, like, right around here again. Anyways, I got to go, guys. That's the story. I got to go. Story time. Heard a lot of it. Yeah, I got to go. I got a meeting. Anyways, ciao. Have a good weekend, guys. That's how we're going to end. Wait. No, wait. I know. I have. Wait, never mind. Wait. I have 10 minutes. I got my time wrong. Dang, bro. Love you, though. Yeah, no giveaway. You can do a giveaway. Hey. Should I continue the story? I have 10 minutes. Should I continue the story? No, what? Okay, so here's another thing. Okay, so guess what? That is how we got Maven. And quite literally, I put everything into it. Dude, it was terrifying, right? So I was also in this Bitcoin market, right? And I lost everything again here. I remember, I think I took out some loans here, right, to do Bitcoin, right? And then it crashed down and lost everything again, right? And then again, when I got into crypto in 2013, BLX, I'm going to put BLX on here. I originally got into crypto in 2013. I lost everything like 3 times, dude. Like everything 3 times. Now, when I was like 23, I was running like local sort of businesses, and those kind of blew up, right? And then I ended up having to go live with my mom again. But like I was pretty young, so it's like you're not really losing everything then. But like I remember this downfall. Like I didn't lose much, but and then again we lost everything here, right? And then every single time there was a massive. So this time, been very, very fortunate to be able to manage things properly after a couple of destructions of life, right? But yeah, like, so this time, here's the thing, dude. 2013, everything for me, I think it was like 5-10 grand, right? 2013, I put everything. I lost like 5-10 grand. I think I threw a Bitcoin around somewhere or whatever, but it was like worthless back then. Bitcoin was worth like $1,000, right? So you just throw like a Bitcoin and lose it, right? And then the next time I lost like 20 grand or whatever, right? And then the next time I lost like $1 million, right? Now, luckily, this time we're very safe. And we have shitloads more money than that. The thing is, I can't lose at this time. There's a whole team of people it's a beautiful story, because it's like, hey, if you want to go fast, here's the thing. Like, if you ever heard that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone, right? And every single time I went alone, I made shitloads of money really quickly, and then I blew it up, right? But you learn, it's like, if you want to go far, you go with a team, right? So we built a team this time, and now the team watches everyone's back, right? You're really similar to those Bitcoin charts. Yeah, dude. Like, there was two major points of sleeping on couches in my life. One was like 23, and then one was 4 years ago, something like that. It was like 28. Something like that. Whenever like right before, right when I started Maven, right? Because it was an all or nothing thing. It's like this has to work, sort of thing. Right. Anyways. Okay, what? So you learned because you hit rock. I've hit rock bottom a few times, depending on like what your definition of rock bottom is. But everyone has to hit some sort of rock bottom, right? For you to want to make a change in your life, you have to be suffering, right? Don't troll us. Yeah. Okay, I should go. Let's do a giveaway real quick. Okay, giveaways are only on Kick and YouTube, or just a really quick one, and then to enter the giveaway, you go plus story, right? In order to enter. Is there a cap on payouts? Maybe 10K. Yeah, 10K. 10K is the cap. 50K two-step. Nice. That's a really awesome. That's a really awesome one. A 50K two-step. Right. Everyone enter. Plus story to enter. Yeah. Thanks for listening to my stories. I got a bunch of stories, dude. My 20s were pretty wild. I've got some stories about traveling that were pretty fucking wild. Cartel nearly kidnapped me was one. I got hit by a truck is another one. The Croatia story was actually pretty crazy too when I went there. Okay, let's spin it. Suffering gives you a great story. Yeah, suffering gives you a lot of character. Sahid, nice. Congrats, bro. Open up a ticket through Maven, and you got a 50K two-step, okay? Anyone who did not win, go ahead and check out maventrading.com, okay? Guys, that's all. Have a good weekend.